Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Intuition Incubator interviews. And I am here with the fabulous Honey Smith Walls, and she is the author of the amazing book, Healing Beyond High, Cannabis Truth. And I have to tell you, this book has changed my life. So I am thrilled that she's here with us. So, without further ado, welcome, honey. How are you?
Oh, thank you, Carolyn. It's so wonderful to be here with you and to hear that the information in my little book has made a difference for you. Thank you for saying that.
Oh, you are so welcome. Well, I had to say it, and that's the reason you're here is because you have so many people that you're helping, that you have helped, and you will continue to help. So, before we talk about your work, I'd just love to start with you. Okay, so what was happening in your life when your healing or transformational journey really began?
Oh, my glory. Oh, that sends me back a few years, and I was in the transformational process of every woman going through late stage marriage and partner going into elder care and the stresses of caring for somebody who was ailing and his personality changed. And so it was very hard to cope with all the changes that happen through just growing older and being with somebody, going through the end of life process. And so the stresses on caregivers, I guess, is what I'm saying. I was a caregiver then. And that just added to everything else that I was not managing very well because of my own upbringing.
Ah,
So, I just didn't realize, Carolyn, as I grew older, that um, I had not resolved things inside of me. And I didn't feel attached to anything inside of me. I had lots of emotions, but they were just chaotic, and my mind was chaotic, and I didn't know how to parse any of that really, even in my 60s, because I'm in my 70s now. And so you add the chaos of a mind that's never been trained in any disciplinary way, not really trained how to think about the world and going through my own aging process, arthritis, inflammation, anxiety, all that stuff, acute pain with just typical old lady issues like thyroid and arthritis and immune deficiency disorders like chronic fatigue and that sort of thing, and then
yeah.
trying to take care of my aging spouse. That's where I was when I got a little help. I Things changed. Now, I didn't write this book until recently. It's brand new. But back then, I was trying to figure out how to help myself so that I could help him better. And I knew that the prescriptions that I'd been trying for 60 some odd years from all my doctors were not doing the trick for me. And at that time, I lived in Florida and cannabis had become legal. And so I remembered as a youth how happy it made me. And I was so incredibly sad and miserable during that time. I thought, well, let me just see if I can just ease some of that. You know, just just thinking about the high as a kid just made me feel happy.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, let's go back a little bit to that because if we go back to when cannabis was legalized, we were more like teenagers at that time, right? Wasn't it when was it legalized? When was it legalized actually? Do you remember the year?
Well, in 2016 for Florida.
Oh, so it was way before. I'm going back to even when we were teenagers. Let's go back
Okay.
there because that's
Well,
where the
it was before that. So in the 70s, the
that's what I was going
60s
to
and
say.
70s, it was highly illegal and we used it illegally for recreation. We didn't know anything about it as medicine back then. We just used it for the high because it was fun and we were kids. And we didn't consider the medicinal values of it because our bodies weren't in problematic issues,
That's
you
right, but
know.
our emotions were because that's where the programming was. Let's go back even
Yes,
further. By the time you got to be in your 70s, all that programming of going along with the program brought on all that anxiety.
it
So
certainly did.
we
And
weren't in
for
touch with
me,
it.
Carolyn, it kept me in anxiety. And I didn't even realize that. And I think today that anxiety is what kept me from being able to attach my inner self, attach me to my inner. Does that make sense?
It makes
I
com
felt so detached.
It makes complete sense because of the programming from the time we were young. We're talking about Ozzie and Harriet, okay?
Yes.
Everything, our mothers were ironing in pearls and shirt dresses and heels. I
And
mean,
so did I. Yes.
yes, and so did you in your
I
marriage.
thought that's the way we were supposed to do it.
So speaking of that, when did you really trust that first intuitive nudge? Because I created the Intuition Incubator interviews exactly because when I was writing my book, Horses to Higher Consciousness,
Uh-huh.
what this is about trusting your intuition and following your own path in spite of what others are programming us to do. So that's what inspired me to create this, to talk to people like you, to say, when did you realize that first intuitive nudge? Going back to the 70s, yes, you trusted yourself enough to try it, cannabis, even though we were programmed that it was bad.
Right. I was a rebel, I guess, or
Exactly.
I would have been called a rebel if they knew about it, but
Well, that's
uh
why you're the person you are now and the position you are now to have created this, which
right.
people, by the way, everything in Honey's book is so amazing. And she has photos of all the different scientists and doctors that she's worked with and interviewed, and they share all of their information here. She's relaying everything she's learned from them that help you take control of your own anxiety, your own pain. And honey, I want to talk a little bit about that. Your education has been phenomenal. Tell everybody what you went through to get to the point where you actually are now with the expertise that you have.
So I had one foot in the grave and my issues were calling me to, cross the rainbow bridge, if you know what I mean. And a girlfriend came and said, "Oh, honey," when she took one look at me, she said, "Here, you have got to have a sip of this." And by sip, I mean taking a smoke, a puff off of a joint that she lit up. And when I did that and it calmed that anxiety immediately, it relieved the spasming in my joints and my gut. It gave me energy to get up off of the couch for the first time in months. It quelled the pain that I was feeling from the arthritis in my hands and the neuropathy in my fingertips that just felt like razor blades every time I put my fingers underwater. It was just awful, the neuropathy. And all of that was quelled. Like, look at that. I can even snap my fingers today because I use cannabis and it allows my joints and my fingers to be nimble again. So when I realized all of a sudden, with all those aches and pains that I was living through in misery, and trying to take care of my ailing, aging spouse who was in his 90s. I have to tell you, it was like a huge eye opener because I I got a little high, but I had an epiphany with that high. I realized this really was a medicinal plant that was affecting me in so many ways.
So this
And
allowed you to
so
trust your intuition then
it
right there and
did.
then.
This was the eye-opening part, the epiphany that allowed me to see I could trust my own intuition. But it was something I really had to cultivate and wanted to because I was sick inside. I was heartsick from not being able to trust anybody around me or myself. And I needed to be able to trust myself as an adult so that I could bring my own life back from the grave, if you will. I had a lot of issues going on and help my husband.
Well, absolutely. And
So
so
the
tell us.
education came when I
Yeah.
went through that little experience. That was a 1 hour experience. And then I got into the computer and I started looking up cannabis and marijuana and medical and and all that stuff. And that's when the world opened up to me. And I began understanding that this plant is incredibly complex and yet medicinal and so safe for us as humans and animals. So I jumped on LinkedIn and found a science tribe that was talking about it. And I just listened and I'd make little comments and then they got to know me and they encouraged my curiosity. And I began telling other people what I was finding out. And then I started my own podcast. That was 7 years ago.
Look
And
at
I've
you
been doing,
go.
yes, I started interviewing those scientists on my own podcast and learning more and more and understanding the alchemy and how we can use simple alchemy of cannabis to help ourselves and our individual needs. And Carolyn, surprisingly, as complex as this plant is, that alchemy is as easy as putting butter and syrup on pancakes once we learn it.
Well, you are amazing and you have inspired me so much and you've helped me with the pain. But what I love the most is your intuition to keep going and keep researching it and how you could be of service with that. And then all the scientists you actually studied with. Tell
Yep.
us a little bit about that.
Well, I began finding out which doctors through that LinkedIn tribe, and anybody can go on LinkedIn and find them. And I encourage you to. But I began seeing who the leaders were. And I really wanted to glean their information. And they started putting up programs, come learn with me, come learn what I've learned. So I began taking as many of those little programs as I could find. And before you knew it, here we are, 10 years later. That was a decade ago. And it just has been an amazing adventure in learning not only about the plant and our world, our history as Americans with cannabis, and what we have in store when you see how beautifully medicinal and gentle this plant is for us.
And it absolutely is because that's what I experienced when I used it because I read your book and I educated myself and
Mm.
Healing Beyond High is a very important title for this book because it has nothing to do with what we learned in the 70s. This is a medicinal plant that
Right.
helps so many things. And I was amazed by this and I was amazed by your expertise in all these important doctors and scientists that you studied with because now you are an expert. And the nature of the Intuition Incubator interviews is expert guests that I want to interview. And you are my first, and you are such a perfect one to start off the Intuition Incubator interviews because of that. And the intuition that you trusted after years of programming to take the bull by the horns and move forward through something that has been very difficult. And I know you've shared with me you've experienced some real challenges, and I want to talk to you a little bit about how you segued through those challenges and stayed true to your intuition. So tell us a little bit about that.
So, the emotional distress that I was going through during those years of me being sick and my spouse heading for the other side was overwhelming. And once I realized that cannabis could calm my anxiety, I really had to start taking a look at what was causing that anxiety to begin with. And the very first thing that I could get rid of and change out of my life instantly was the news and media and the constant compounding of chaos that I was listening to 24/7 with the news on, CNN or Fox or whoever, we were had on the TV all day long. And that constant bombardment of panic, fear, terror, anxiety. The traffic's horrible. The weather's going to kill us. There are murderers out there. Women are being raped. Old women are dying, without any aid and help. And I'm turning old, and I am just getting more and more fear from listening to all of that. Once I decided to turn that off, all of a sudden my thoughts are not with that junk as much as they are with me and what I'm doing now. So I found some mentors. I didn't expect to. I didn't even know what a mentor was in those days.
When the
But
student is ready, the teacher appears.
there it is. And I began with Eckhart Tolle, learning how to live in the present, in the now, and keep your mind here. This was what I couldn't understand. How do you keep your mind off of that junk? It's not easy. You have to train your brain to think right and to be in the now. And I didn't understand that process until I listened to Eckhart Tolle.
And you
And
trusted your
then
intuition, though. There you go.
that's right. And he led me into Joe Dispenza, who believes that you can train your mind to heal your body.
Well, of course.
What a concept to me.
I'm a
I had
clinical
no idea.
hypnotherapist. I do
Yes,
with people all the time.
it was beautiful. I was so thrilled and excited about that. I had no idea. And of course, I didn't trust anything that I was thinking because always been told I wasn't smart enough, that I'd have to have a man to help me and guide me and take care of me. That was my conditional upbringing.
Programming.
Programming. And once I could get out of that and into my own sovereignty, then I began listening to women leaders who were saying words like sovereignty, which I didn't understand in the beginning either. And it led me to my inner self, who I can trust and do trust now. So what I really want to say about this story is that I needed medication to literally calm my nervous system before I could calm my mind enough to think about change.
That's
And it
brilliant, honey.
was,
That is
yeah,
brilliant.
it was an epiphany that started all of it. Just
And
a
that,
little.
so tell us how that happened with the plant medicine, how important this is.
So, plant therapy, and I'm not just talking about cannabis, but especially for cannabis, plant therapy has this in internal thing about it. This, what was the word I used earlier? This when you go when I'm sorry The word just left me,
That's
but
okay.
it means you internalize what you're living through and looking inside yourself. So cannabis can make us take a deeper look at what's going on inside here with calmness
Yes,
and
you can self-reflect because the anxiety is calmed
self-reflection.
enough to actually look
It is.
and see.
And that's when I found myself. That's where I found myself, of course, was inside here. And I
Yes,
always knew that I was a good person. I always felt like I was a good person. I just didn't feel like I had the competence to think right because that was my programming. But damn, I'm smart.
you're extremely smart.
And I didn't find that out until I could find out who I was through calming myself long enough to see what was happening.
Well,
Sort of on a
exactly.
global scale, me
Yeah.
sitting up there somewhere looking down on me down here in my life and, summarizing all of it and then looking more deeply at each one of the aspects of my life and how I got here and how I was going to change that.
Well, and
Because
speaking of that, I want to know how did these intuitive gifts change or mature over time? Because you just mentioned that you matured through this. So
that's
how did
right.
that happen? How did your gift, the intuitive gifts change and mature over time? Give us a little trajectory of that.
So when I began finding out about myself, the the integration of the old me to who I am now took time. It took time because it's inner child healing.
Absolutely.
And I didn't even know what that was
None of us did when we first started.
until you helped me see all of that and how integral it was to who I was then and the change that I wanted to become. And so once you see how, and that again is the epiphany, seeing something for the first time, realization. And so the maturity of beginning to trust myself started there. And then I would have through listening to different mentors. And I have to tell everybody, mentors are specific to you. Somebody else's or your girlfriend's mentor is not going to be your mentor necessarily.
Correct.
We hear what we hear from, different angles.
Well,
And
exactly. And that's your own intuition telling you who's
yes,
and who will come in. Like I said, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Your teachers will intuitively come to you when you are open to your own intuition. We have to create that incubator of intuition.
yes. I was incubating.
Yes, you
Oh,
were.
I just,
We're like in a soup. We're in a soup.
yes.
But
It was thrilling, Carolyn, because I could feel myself maturing. I could see where I would no longer lose my cool and I would think about the question or the situation and as on a globe, like globally instead of emotionally. And I could see that pausing to breathe, I didn't realize how much I was holding my breath.
that's a very good point.
Yeah, oh my goodness, I held my breath
Very
all the
good.
time. And breathing in energy and exhaling, oh no, I'd just breathe in anybody else's energy and hold on to it.
And how do you balance that intuition with the logic or the structure in how you help people? How do you balance those?
Well, again, it takes time to recognize that one needs help or change, and the acceptance to change things that you can, And so if you start with the little teeny things like I did, I just turned that damn TV off.
Yeah, turn off the noise
But
to
that
go
was
within.
huge because it stopped
You.
scaring me.
Yeah, it's absolutely
And so
right.
that was part of the catharsis. I realized I could help myself by getting rid of the chaos, a lot of the chaos.
Well, and speaking
Uh,
of the chaos,
mhm.
you're that fear you were talking about. How do you distinguish intuition from fear or your ego or your imagination?
Well,
How did
see,
you?
I didn't know. And they were all bundled up together for me. And it was learning to pause, take a deep breath, think about this globally, not emotionally. Don't react. I was reacting to everything my spouse was saying, and his condition sort of made him mean. It
Yeah,
changed his personality. And so I was responding to a person I was treating as though he was okay, although I knew he wasn't, but he was saying things to me that I was like, I stopped reacting. And that in itself was a huge grace so that I could hear me inside. That
right.
was part of the catharsis of change for me and learning that my intuition would say, okay, don't respond. Wait, take a breath, take a breath. And it became louder and louder eventually for me until my inner self was speaking more often than I was.
That's right. Very good. Yeah, because you're strengthening that muscle, so to speak.
It felt like a muscle.
The more you're using it,
It felt
the
like a muscle.
it is like a muscle, and that's a daily practice, right? Like that
It
we have
became one.
to help your intuition become clear. So, yeah, well, so what daily practices do you do that really helps you keep that intuition clear?
So I've got a couple of little rituals, and I didn't realize, and part of my learning about learning to trust my own intuition was ritualizing it. So I would look at things the way Eckhart Tolle would say, and he would suggest before you go to bed, make a suggestion to yourself. So that in the morning, so that that night you're going to sleep comfortably and solidly, and in the morning you're going to wake up feeling blessed and in a state of gratitude. So the state of gratitude, that's a big one.
Huge.
When you replace all that worry and chaos with gratitude for what you're actually living in, and that you can actually move your body and smile and make somebody happy or comfortable, that you're living in the state of gratitude. Oh my goodness, that is what I've learned. The highest energy, the state of gratitude.
That's
And
right.
and you can bring that energy right back into you. And so
Yeah.
when you constantly live in the state of gratitude, it's very exciting. You see these little things happening, like you get the best parking spot, or an appointment opens up, or your truck isn't really, kaput. It just needs a little fluid in it, or whatever it is. And you're so grateful. You give a, oh, woof, that was great, And so the state of gratitude completely keeps you out of the state of anxiety.
Well,
And I
absolutely.
loved not feeling anxious. So I wanted to do everything that made me grateful or feel like I was, and to stay in that state. So I began ritualizing before I'd go to bed. I'd think about, before I'd lay down and deep breathe and think about sleeping well without pain. And of course, I'd take my medicine and
Which I want to talk to
my
again in a minute.
my gentle plant therapy medicine, and then I'd have a peaceful night, and I would wake up, and guess what would happen? My little puppies would come kiss me awake, and the first thing I would think is, oh, how precious. I'm so grateful.
That is so
And
wonderful. You're
it's
waking with
beautiful.
gratitude.
It's beautiful to wake up in gratitude. And then that's how I start my day.
And that's how your day is going to go because the more you're
And
grateful for, the more things are going to come to be grateful for.
that's it.
Well,
That's
let's
it.
go back for a minute with
Yeah.
because I wanted you to share what I benefited from, like the BC Plus, and because we were talking a little bit before about cannabis when it was not legal and it was really just used recreationally. But I want you to share with our audience what I learned in your fabulous book, Healing Beyond High, um, about how these tinctures and these scientists and doctors are prescribing this. And now we know that there's dispensaries and now it's medicinal and now that's accepted and understood. So the taboo has disappeared.
Yep.
I want you to share a little bit about that with the tinctures, like the BC Plus is just a beta caryophyllene, which is a terpene, and there's no THC even in it, correct?
That's right. Okay, let me give you just a little teeny tiny bit of history before I go into the science. The white guys never would have made it over here to the Americas without cannabis. Why? Because you can't shove a boat in those days across an ocean without sails and rope, both of which were made from cannabis. In those days, and for all time in our history, humans had been using the plant for clothing, for feed, for bedding for their animals, for recreational purposes, and for commerce, as well as for strengthening their pottery and their homes and their roads. And once our forefathers made it over here to this country, they decreed that all settlers coming over would henceforth grow cannabis. Why? To start our first American Navy. Because what can't you do without rope and sails? Can't shove a boat across an ocean, right?
Right.
Okay, there's part of our American history that we knew nothing about for the past 100 years because politics came in, took over the plant, said no, no to our society, and started arresting people for their for profit prisons. The first of which was Alcatraz, so that they could start incarcerating Black and brown people for cannabis. Why? Because alcohol prohibition had just ended, and the attorney general at that time needed another um, bad guy to arrest people for, to keep his great big huge army of prohibition agents hired. So another, that's more politics. So you've got history, politics, and now here comes a little bit of science. All humans and animals are born with a receptor system that binds perfectly with the hundreds of cannabinoids and compounds in the cannabis plant. Even down at the bottom of the ocean, there is a slug that has never seen the light of day, nor has it smoked a joint, but it too has this receptor system in it. What does that mean? It means that we have grown up alongside the plant and that we as humans and animals are more plant-like than we are humans and animals. So this plant, this receptor system is in our blood, our bones, our DNA. And it binds perfectly with all the cannabinoids and terpenes and other compounds in cannabis. That's why when we smoke a joint or take a tincture or rub it on our skin, that it is so effective for us and acts like a little shotgun blast to all our aches and pains, no matter what they are or where they are. So, now that we have discovered this receptor system in 1992, Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, the father of THC, is what we call him. Um, now that we understand more about this receptor system, we're beginning to understand the alchemy of these different compounds in cannabis. So, what I learned from these fabulous scientists as they are trying and using cannabis on their patient load, they're finding out that it stops it stops the problems in Alzheimer's. It stops the problems in seizures with babies who have hundreds of seizures a day. It stops the problems of anxiety for women like me who are ultra anxious. And I don't know if you think I'm anxious now, but I feel like I've got an anxious bone in my body.
No.
And it has an immense response to inflammation. So the
That's the
doctors that
three.
yes, it's inflammation, anxiety, and acute pain are the three things that all humans and animals feel, and that cannabis works perfectly for. So gentle on our body that it does not have the laundry list of deadly side effects that the big pharma uh, compounds do. So we're just now, you know, allowing our society to re-enter the phase of using plant therapy. Now that we understand we really have this receptor system that binds perfectly with cannabinoids. But you talked about BCP. And to our audience, there are a lot of people who just are so afraid of cannabis that they don't even want to try it and they won't listen to it. No, don't bother me with the facts. I already know what I believe, you know. So,
Good
okay,
point. I already know what I believe.
that's right. That's
Right.
right. So, don't
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 listen to
mess
your
up
own
what I'm going to
intuition.
say. So, okay, so all those doctors I was hanging out with, they were finding out what's in cannabis. So now we know that there's about 150 different cannabinoids. You know of THC, the one that gets you high. You've heard of CBD, that's cannabidiol. And that one does not get you high, but it helps you with inflammation, is probably what everybody's heard, right? It also happens to tame THC. And that's what you and I are talking about and what my book is about. It's about using cannabis safely and effectively without getting high, but using it for immense pain, intense anxiety, and huge inflammation. The three things that all humans and animals need for their lives. So the doctors were discovering not only the cannabinoids, but the other constituents in cannabis. And the major other components are called terpenes. Now, a terpene is something that you have tasted and had to drink all your life. All your life. It's what you smell in flowers. It's what you taste in every bit of food that you eat. It's what you smell in anything that you consume. Those are terpenes. And guess what? Terpenes are as medicinal as the cannabis compounds we found, and they have an effect on the cannabis compounds. They work synergistically together like a little team coming into your body and spreading out and saying, "Ooh, I see something over there that needs me. Ooh, let's go down there. Ooh, what about this anxiety? Ooh, I can work on that. Hey, I can work on the inflammation. Hey, I can work on that severe pain you got going on in your tummy." You see all that going on?
Yep.
That's how cannabinoids and terpenes work together. Now, when you separate them, guess what? You can use those terpenes without the cannabinoids.
I know,
And
like
for
me. That's what
people,
I was
that's
using.
right, and me too. And for people who cannot use cannabis or will not use cannabis, you could use a terpene. And they're so gentle. I just want to show you. Let me, oopsies,
Yeah.
let me
Yeah,
just
show
get,
us. Because
let me
yeah,
just
I want to
get
see.
this. This is a product that one of my favorite doctors who is in my book. His name is Dr. Philip Blair, and yes, I met him through our cannabis lectures and conferences where we've met, but he began testing canna this terpene, which is called beta caryophyllene. It's a big long name, so we call it BCP for short. Beta caryophyllene or BCP. What does BCP do? It handles intense anxiety, it handles inflammation, and it handles severe pain. And that's all without cannabis. This is not cannabis. This is a terpene that has been FDA approved forever. This terpene even grows in grass. They picked it up in cow's milk that's grass fed.
Wow.
Yes. So you've been getting beta caryophyllene all your life because it also grows in just about all the vegetables and fruits you've ever had, as well as nuts and spices. So you've been getting beta caryophyllene almost all your life, but in minute amounts. Now, what Dr. Philip Blair found out is that when you take this product in a larger amount and in a liposomal form, that means it's in a form that it liposomes are like little Cheerios. And when you put cannabis inside that little Cheerio, it gives you better bioavailability. It goes into your body faster and disperses faster and gives you more power. So this is just a liquid form that you squirt into your mouth, and that is it. And
I know
before
I've
you know
used
it,
it with
I'm
extreme
telling you,
pain and within minutes, literally
within
within
minutes,
5 or 10 minutes, it's my hip is pain free. And I've tried the ones with the THC, but I also learned that from your book and from you, is that when you put the THC with the CBD and the CBG and the CBE with all the other ones,
all of that.
they actually, it tempers the THC, and if there's less of the THC and more of the others, you don't get any high. The THC is there, but it's
It's
working
there for the
synergistically.
power. You're using the
Yes.
power, the pain power of THC without the high. And that's the alchemy involved in cannabis. So when you use beta caryophyllene to tamp down that high in THC, then you go about your day fully focused.
Yeah, it's
Now, why
amazing.
would somebody want to use the high? Well, we enjoy being high recreationally, but we also can use that THC to tamp down PTSD from our soldiers have, or like our policemen have, or like our air traffic controllers have. That's high anxiety, or like surgeons have. So, and also in this day and age of rolling and undulating laws around cannabis, you can't travel with cannabis, but you can travel with BC Plus. This is Dr. Blair's Able Docs Apothecary BC Plus product, and he's got several others, and you can travel with this even out of the country, but
Yeah.
you can't do that with cannabis.
No, and this works
Right,
just as well. I mean, I've tried the other after I
exactly.
learned from you. I tried the other with the combination.
Right.
The BC Plus works just as well. So I thought, why not use that? It's just a terpene. It's just beta
It's
caryophyllene.
right,
What's gonna, and it works perfectly. So
right.
I'm really happy to have had you on today to talk about both the empowerment of using the cannabis products, what you've learned, the scientists, but also how it helped you tamper down the anxiety so you could start listening to your intuition and trust your intuition more. It was a great catalyst for you. Now, everybody's going to have a different one, but I have. I have learned so much, and I encourage anyone who has the anxiety or the pain, inflammation, to really get Honey's book. It's not big. It's how many pages you have in it?
No, it's only 120 pages. You can read it in an hour and a half, and then you will have a complete cannabis foundation, an understanding of how to use the plant, what to choose, where to go, who to trust,
Yes, because you have all the
how you can use
pictures
it.
of all the people. And she also has a little quiz at the end of each chapter. So after you finish the
Oh,
chapter, you do the
seated.
quiz and then you go, "Oh, I I really got educated."
Yep.
And I was like, "Now I know I can really use this responsibly." And it's made a big difference. And it's helped me also too. When we're in anxiety, we can't trust our intuition if we're in pain and we're hurting. We just want to get rid of that. And if we can calm all of it with gentle plant therapy, then it allows us to open more to this intuition,
And
right?
focus. You
And
can't focus when you're in anxiety.
that's right. You cannot focus on the with when you're in anxiety or pain. We all know that, right? I mean,
That's right.
everybody has that. So, okay. So as you look back on your journey, what feels most important, like for you, for, people to understand about healing or transformation?
Oh, I love this question. What what feels most important about me is that I found me. I found me. I found me.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's so exciting to be me now because I love me. I'm no longer afraid of me or afraid that I won't make it or that I'll blow something or that I'll do life wrong. Now I'm just me and opening up to that beautiful aspect of interiorism. Not even a word,
No, you
but
just created it. It is interiorism. It really
you
is.
I couldn't have done it without help from women like you and healers like you. You've helped me so much understand myself. And it's so important for people to get a mentor and stop believing everything they think.
To stop the programming.
To stop the programming.
Absolutely.
You just
So
can't believe everything you think. You've got to expand.
you've got to expand and open up and temper that anxiety, temper the pain, the fear, the worry. So, okay,
Mhm.
before we close, is there maybe one small step or a reflection that you'd like to offer our listeners today?
Oh, thank you for that. I I I just want our audience to know that change is good and that our upbringing is not our fault. And the way we think is not our fault. We've been conditioned and programmed. And if you are ready for your life to change, you can do that. You may need a little plant therapy or, something to help your nervous system settle down
Or
before your
emotional health.
mind,
Yeah.
yes, will open up to getting help emotionally and psychologically. But we're talking about psychological change. So
Yes.
this is this is what you want to change in order to heal the person inside. And you can do that and enjoy the rest of your life living in gratitude. Oh, you're going to love that gratitude thing.
The
I
gratitude.
promise you that.
Thank you. Thank you for that last reminder about gratitude. I like to say is the attitude. Gratitude is the attitude. And, in summary of trusting our intuition, which again, I learned through my living my life and writing my book, Horses to Higher Consciousness, Riding the Cosmic Current, which was my journey, similar to like what Honey went through with her journey that allowed her to create this amazing book, Healing Beyond High. So I have loved every minute of this. I am honored and privileged to know you, to have had your guidance and your friendship. You are an amazing woman, an amazing human being. And I hope so many people see this interview and they are inspired. We love you all and we thank you so much for being here, all our audience. And thank you, Honey. I love you to the ends of the earth. Thanks, everybody.
Same back at you, sister. I love you too. And thank you for this so much. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. So tell everybody now before we leave where they can learn about you, how they can learn more, how they can get your book. Where should they go? What should they do?
Oh, boys and girls, just go to Amazon.com. This book, this little book that you can read in an hour and a half, costs less than the price of dinner at McDonald's. So do yourself a favor, go to Amazon.com. You can also Google me, Honey Smith Walls. I'm all over the Google and I'm all over the Facebook place. So go find me and we'll have a little chat.
Yes, she is. And I go there all the time and I'm always laughing and enjoying because she's got a great sense of humor. She's a multifaceted, beautiful woman that has so much experience. And I am again grateful and honored to know you and to work with you. I think you're fabulous. And so thank you, honey. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And thank you for being here on the Maiden Intuition Incubator interviews. Thank you, and we'll see you again soon for more information and inspiration so that you can incubate that intuition yourself. Okay, I'm Carolyn Beauchamp, author of Horses to Higher Consciousness, Riding the Cosmic Current, which you also can get on Amazon or Barnes& and Noble or Balboa Press, my publisher, and you can see me at carolynbeauchamp.com. So thank you, everyone. We love you. We'll see you again soon. Bye, everyone.